Hello and welcome everyone to Midnight Overwatch, the health report that we do usually every couple of weeks with Bob Gilpatrick, where we specifically use Overwatch to talk about health topics and Bob's expertise in this and the special that we have been doing. And this week we will be discussing heart health. And Bob's got a lot of information about that. Very important. Very important. You have to have good heart for everything else to work. But anyway, let's get right into it. And again, this is for the weekend of October 11th, 2025. All right, so let's get right into it and bring Bob in. Bob is joining us down in St. Petersburg, Florida. Bob, how are you and how are things going in Florida today, sir?
Yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you, Phoenix. And things are good in Florida. You know, it's October and the weather's cooling off. Actually, by this coming weekend, the high will be 82 degrees, which is a welcome relief from the 94 we had all through the summer. And yeah, everything is going very well. Thank you.
Very good. You know what, like we normally do before we get onto topic of heart health this weekend, do you have any special information, news, or anything going on with your company you'd like to share with us before we get started in the main topic?
Yes, actually, I do. Thank you. For people that have listened before or are already using some of the Boomer products, just want to let people know we have our Myatrol back in stock, and we we ended up only running out for a week, which was very fortunate. But with everything that happened, you know, since going back to last March, it took a long time to get our next order, but now we have plenty. So if people were using it and ran out, now's a great time to get more. If you're just hearing about it for the first time, Myatrol is the very first ever epigenetic reprogramming nutraceutical, meaning it can actually activate your genes that have become kind of sluggish and dormant with age. We now have a pill that can activate specific genes to express themselves as if they were much younger. And in this case, Myotrol with MYO meaning muscle is a pill that allows people to begin building muscle again as if they were much younger. And it also helps with the generation of energy, which we'll talk about as we talk about heart health coming up. And it also stimulates a molecule of motivation called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is very important because if people want to get up and move, they're on the couch and they know they should get out and go for a walk to see the sunset, but they find themselves still sitting on the couch. It's because you don't have enough BDNF to translate the thought into action. And now you're going to have plenty of that. And you'll notice, like most people do, that your motivation increases. And as you start to move and do things more physically active, we have people that are losing weight as a result, and most people are gaining muscle weight. And so that's the update on the Myotrol. It's there, it's ready. And we also are today, Phoenix, we placed the order for the labels that are going to go on the new product, which is also an epigenetic editor that is going to help with cartilage. So as people age, they stop making the substrates or the building blocks of cartilage, which are type 2 collagen and aggrecan and hyaluronic acid, and the code for how to put that all together and make this cushiony cartilage. And so we placed the order for the labels today so that we can get those over to the manufacturer, and in about a month we'll have that product ready. A lot of people have been testing it, and it's working really well to help people not have to go and get knee replacements or hip replacements.
Very
So
cool.
that's going to be excellent. The
Mm.
other thing is we also got word this another new product that's going to come on board. And we got word today that the testing that needed to be done on a new pain control product, which is going to be in a roll-on. And I've been trying this out, Phoenix, this roll-on pain reliever, and it's an amazing thing. It works if you overwork and your back is sore, you can roll this on and back pain goes away. If you get a headache for some reason, roll it on to the side of your head, boom, the headache goes away. And it's really quite amazing. It's not like anything we've ever seen before. And it's going to be called Super Strong. And we got word yesterday that the testing that came back on um, the the efficacy of it over time, meaning how long will it last for in this roll-on tube. The test came back and it looks like it's good to go. So we're getting ready to place the order for the labels for Super Strong as well.
Very cool. Years ago, I think I saw it. They used to have a product something like that years ago.
Yeah, it could be the the formula for this was used many years ago, and then was abandoned. They stopped doing it for some reason. But one of the men who was involved in it, who's now 86 years old, approached me to say, "Hey, I've got this awesome formula that came from a scientist down in Peru. Would you like to try it?" And so we had a company make us some samples, and lo and behold, it worked exactly like he said it was going to.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, like I said, man, it was decades ago, and they had a thing. It was literally, it wasn't out long. It was in a tube, looked like a giant chapstick, and you put it on your forehead if you had a headache. People swore it was great, and it just like I never saw it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. What else we got?
So here's a really important development that it just came out. It was announced about a week ago out of the Department of Health and Human Services, RFK Junior's, department, and they have as an agency within there. They have an agency called the Advanced Research Projects Agency. And what they are undertaking right now is they've just come up with grant money for 4 different organizations who are jointly going to work on perfecting a new test for cancer. And so they're going to have a test that can either be a breath test or a urine sample that is going to identify over 30 different types of cancer, and it can detect it when it's way back in the first stage. And so this is a big breakthrough because it it costs way more money to treat cancer that's at stage 2, 3, or 4, and it's much harder to cure the cancer at those stages. And um, so now people are going to just be able to have a kit where they'll be able to do this and send the result to the doctor, send the urine sample to the doctor, and they'll be able to tell you right away whether or not you have any issues with a newly developing cancer in your body. And this, the people that are in charge of this are just really happy. They're like, this is going to be a huge breakthrough because right now cancer is one of the biggest problems on the planet, and the biggest problem is detecting it early enough to actually cure it. And so we're not sure when it's going to be available. Uh, we do know that once you take the test, within about 4 days' time, they're going to be able to give you the result. And they have a university uh, in Pennsylvania. The Carnegie Mellon University is going to be working on this. And they also have a company called Grafton Biosciences. It's out of Georgia. Another one from Cambridge in the United Kingdom called Owlstone Medical. And then there's another company that's in California called SRI. And the four of them are going to be receiving grant money that's going to total $147 million. And they're going to develop this test for use, which will probably take them about 2 years to get it ready to go. And I think this is just going to be something that makes a huge difference in the overall health of people all around the world. And it also gives people peace of mind if you're a person that has cancer, as a history in your family, the medical history, and you're worried about yourself getting cancer and you have access to this test, you can tell on an ongoing basis, how you're doing. And if something starts to go wrong, you can go ahead and get treatment for it right away. One of the things we'll talk about when we talk about heart health, Phoenix, is keeping your mitochondria healthy, which are the powerhouses of your cell. And we know that your mitochondria are powering your heart, and there's lots and lots of mitochondria in your heart cells. But we also know that when mitochondria start to go bad, when they stop functioning properly, those cells can turn cancerous. And and so the the whole idea that we're going to be talking about today, which is a kind of a functional medicine type of strategy by using nutraceuticals and a proper diet to keep your mitochondria healthy, are going to help you to prevent both heart disease and cancer.
Well, very cool. Well, let's get right into it then, Bob. Main topic here. Um, yeah,
Yep.
what's this? My internet connection is unstable. Okay. It looked like I had a little warning thing pop up here from our company, but everything's good now. So please continue while we have internet connection.
Yeah. Okay. So in regard to heart health, that nothing could be more important. You want to talk about a vital organ. If your heart stops beating, you're going to be dead in about 5 minutes, right? And uh, other, essential organs, you have other vital organs, your liver, your kidneys, etc. But when and those organs can stop functioning, and you can still live long enough to get treatment for it or even a transplant. But if your heart stops functioning and it can't be restarted, it's more vital, right? It's more important because you can die right away. And when people have heart attacks, Phoenix, they say that in 40% of the cases, the first symptom that you ever have is sudden death. And so it's very important to know if your heart is in good condition, and it's very important to know what to do to keep it that way. And so the first thing that we want to identify is the whole issue of producing enough energy. And then the second thing we'll talk about is going to be inflammation. And so producing enough energy in order to keep your heart muscle strong is vital, because there's this thing called ejection fraction. And what that is it's a measure of how well your heart is pumping blood. How forcefully is it pumping? And that number that is assigned is an indicator of one of the main aspects of the health of your heart. And so you have to be able to make enough energy, and you have to be able to have enough electricity moving all through your heart in order for you to be able to pump blood hard enough. And the way that that occurs is in each cell that makes up your heart muscle, there's somewhere between 100 and 300 mitochondria. And they are little organelles that are in the cell whose have many jobs to do, but one of the most important is that it is making energy. So ultimately, what's happening with your body is you have electrons are moving all throughout your body. An electron is moving from one atom to another to create a different one, from one molecule to another. And this is called the electron transport chain. And your body does makes this supply of electrons via the Krebs cycle, which is one of the cycles going on inside your mitochondria. And it's about 30 different transfers where you start with a particular molecule, and then it gets acted upon by an enzyme or a vitamin, and it becomes something anew. Then gets acted upon again and again and again. And after going through this whole cycle, it will produce a molecule at the end called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And ATP then becomes your molecule of energy that powers this electron chain. And so the good news is we know what it takes to keep your mitochondria healthy and functioning really well. So for example, we know that some of the activator molecules that are necessary to keep this Krebs cycle moving are vitamin B1, B3, B6, and also coenzyme Q10. And so when we made our product called Boomer Boost, knowing that these substrates are required for for the health of your mitochondria, we made sure that they were in there for that purpose. Now, those compounds also do other things. They act in other pathways in addition to the Krebs cycle, but we know for certain they're needed, for that Krebs cycle. So you have to feed your body macronutrients in the form of good fats and proteins and carbohydrates. And your body converts that food that you eat into energy via the Krebs cycle. And so you start with the macronutrients and then make sure you have the right micronutrients that will facilitate this Krebs cycle. And this is the beginning part of how you make sure that your heart muscle is functioning properly. You have to pay attention to that. Now, the other things that you have to pay attention to is the whole concept of inflammation. So when they do studies, Phoenix, about heart attacks and heart disease and what you know is what's causing it, whether it's cholesterol or something else, they have lots and lots of heart attacks, especially ones that cause sudden death, that seem to be being caused not by bad cholesterol, but by generalized inflammation. And we know that you can do things to reduce that inflammation. The higher your inflammation, the more likely you're going to have trouble with your heart. And so as a result, we put things into Boomer Boost, and also it's naturally occurring in our barley product that will reduce your inflammation. So the average person, their inflammation is about a 3 on the scale. And it can vary from all the way down to zero point 0.1 all the way up to 30 if people have very high inflammation. People with diabetes tend to have much higher inflammation, and with about 50% of the population of the United States being pre-diabetic or diabetic, very, very important to know how your inflammation is. And you measure that with a test that is called CRP, C-reactive protein. And you want your number to be at 0.5 or below. And like I said, most people are at a 3. So the good news is when you take barley and Boomer Boost together, you have compounds in there that reduce your inflammation, such as glutathione, such as proanthocyanin, and trimethylglycine and superoxide dismutase. These are all things that help keep your inflammation low. And when you take them together, those two products, they're powders, you take them together, your inflammation can go down by a factor of 10 or even more. So we have people that have diabetes who have very high inflammation, 6, 7, 8, and it'll come all the way down to zero point 0.1 when they use these products. And this is really good news for people with diabetes because inflammation is what's causing the problems of diabetes. So people that have diabetes over time, they have a much, much higher risk of heart attacks, strokes, and they also tend to have problems with their kidneys and their eyes and their intestines and blood flow to the periphery, particularly to their legs and their feet. And this is all being caused by inflammation. And so, if you or someone you know has diabetes, you want to make sure you know their CRP number. You want to make sure it's below zero point 0.5. And if it's not, you should get on the phone right away and give us a call so that we can help you to get that number down before it causes a severe problem. And now, just as an example, Phoenix, we have customers, including one from right here in St. Petersburg, who has very, very bad diabetes, meaning his A1C number is always 8 or above when he goes for a test. And that's real high. And it means he's got very high inflammation and is at super high risk for adult onset issues like we just described. Well, about 14 years ago, he started using our nutrition products and when he goes to the doctor, Phoenix, they tell him, listen, man, you are doing so great. You're in your 70s. And if we did not see your blood test that said that you have high blood sugar, nobody would even know that you have diabetes because you have no symptoms and no complications like most people get when they're very young. So, Phoenix, my sister had diabetes from the time she was 5 years old, and she lived a long time for a person with diabetes back in those days. And she passed away at the age of 31. And sure enough, she had a heart attack when she was 31, and it was from diabetes. But nowadays, with the use of the types of products we're talking about, you can be a person with diabetes, even type 1, where your pancreas has shut down producing insulin, and you can still be super, super healthy because it's the inflammation that's being caused by the diabetes that's causing the problems. And you can reduce your inflammation without curing your diabetes and live a very, very healthy life as if you don't have diabetes. Right? So that's one test you want to make sure you absolutely want to have. Your CRP test. You also want to make sure you know your A1C. What is your blood sugar level? Right? And the other super important test that you want to get is your iron test. And the reason is this: when people think about iron, they think about anemia, meaning, oh, I have low iron. I have to start eating more of this or that to get my iron up because I'm really tired. That's very true. But you don't have to get your iron up very high to no longer be tired. But as it starts to climb and it gets up above that 3/4 percentile of the range they give you, now you have high iron, and that is causing just as big a problem. And the reason is it's hanging out right around your mitochondria and it's interfacing with the byproducts of that Krebs cycle, and it's causing tremendous inflammation. So your body throws off these molecules called ROS, reactive oxygen species, in the presence of iron. And too much iron raises your inflammation dramatically, damages your mitochondria, they become cancerous, your heart fails, and it's a very big problem. So you want to know your iron level, you want to know what the range is, and you want to try to keep it right in the middle. You don't want to let it seep up too high. And very easy to do. Ask your doctor for the test, and And when the doctor says to you, oh, your iron's fine, it's right in the range, look at it yourself. Is it in the range? Yeah, but is it right near the top of the range? Yes, it is. Well, now's a good time to go and donate blood so that you can start to reduce your iron level. So those are a couple of really critical things there, Phoenix. Uh, the other real important stuff is to pay attention to is the health of your mouth, right? And they've had studies out for a very long time now saying that the bacterial mix in your mouth, meaning how much good bacteria and bad bacteria do you have in your mouth, and do you have gum disease? This has a direct effect on the health of your heart. And so you want to make sure that you have that right balance of good and bad bacteria in your mouth. And you want to make sure that you don't get gum disease. And with this being the case, it's good to know that you can get bacteria out of the, the area of your gums by using a technique called oil pulling. So you can use coconut oil and you can put it into your mouth and swish it around and use like a suction creation technique, like a sucking technique inside your mouth so that it starts to pull the bacteria out of your gums. And then you spit it out and rinse your mouth really well. You can even use hydrogen peroxide if you want to put a little bit in your mouth afterwards and swish it around. And then, of course, do your flossing, your water pick, and your brushing to keep your gums really, really healthy so you don't have this negative effect. And if you want to really go overboard, there is a product called Prodentum. And Prodentum was created to help with this issue. And what it is it's three different good bacteria that are in a little pill that dissolves in your mouth. And so after you've done your oil pulling and caring for your teeth, you can put this pill in your mouth and it will recolonize your mouth with this good bacteria. And very, very great, functional medicine type of technique for helping to prevent heart disease. Now, the other thing is, Phoenix, we talked about earlier on, we talked about Myotrol. Myotrol is also really, really good for your heart. Your heart is a muscle. Myotrol is activating your genes. And you have genes that are in your nucleus, and you also have genes that are in your mitochondria. Because mitochondria were originally bacteria. And nobody is really sure exactly how this happened, but somewhere around 1 billion years ago, bacteria were kind of morphing and they developed the capability to make more energy than they needed to sustain this bacteria. Okay. And somehow or another, it ended up hooking up with other living organisms and kind of latching on to them and providing more energy to that other organism. And we don't know if it was the organism that engulfed the bacteria or if the bacteria was somehow conscious and said, hey, let me help this other life form and give it more energy and see what happens. Well, lo and behold, that started to make life on Earth evolve much more quickly because now these other organisms all of a sudden have more energy and they started to grow and they started to get bigger and they started to morph. And the next thing you know, you had all different types of life forms that were being powered by this bacteria that was producing more energy. And over time, over over hundreds of millions of years, the bacteria just kind of became part of the other organisms and they became the mitochondria. And so our mitochondria has its own DNA in addition to the nucleic DNA. And there are codes in that DNA for all types of different actions. And so we are a very large organism that is being powered by ancient bacteria that have become interwoven into our nucleic DNA and have retained some of their own DNA. And so it's not just the bacteria that's in our gut and is clinging to us all over our body. Our skin is completely coated in bacteria. But in addition to the bacteria that are making our neurotransmitters that are in our gut, we have bacteria in every cell of our body that are now called mitochondria. And that's how these larger organisms evolved over hundreds of millions of years.
Amazing.
And so, yeah, it is quite amazing to think about how much bacteria plays a role in human life. And the other thing is that's real important to pay attention to for life that's related to your heart is circulation. And so there's this phenomena where our bodies are very large. We're big organisms, and we are aerobic life, meaning we are reliant upon oxygen in order to stay alive. And if you're deprived of oxygen for about 5 minutes, you're you're going to die. And you can go without water for probably 6 or 7 days. You can go without food for months, but you can only go without oxygen for about 5 minutes. And so the way our bodies get oxygen is through circulation. So the oxygen is being circulated in our blood and it's attaching to a molecule called hemoglobin. And each hemoglobin molecule can fixate for oxygen, and then it gets transported through the blood into these tiny little microscopic capillaries, which is where the blood meets the cell. And then the oxygen is released and gets into the cell, contributes to the Krebs cycle and, and other metabolic pathways, and it keeps us alive. And in order for that circulation to occur, to bring all that oxygen, including to the heart muscle itself. So the heart pumps blood, but only about 25% of the total circulatory system is receiving blood from that pumping mechanism. Because the capillaries are so small, the heart pumping does not actually push the blood through the capillaries. And so the capillaries expand and contract in order to create this pumping action that moves the blood along. And you have to have certain nutraceuticals present in order for you to keep that pumping action going. And one of them is called arginine. Arginine's the the precursor to nitric oxide, which is helping to make those capillaries expand. And your heart muscle itself receives blood through those capillaries. So even though your heart is right there, it's not pumping blood to its own cells. The blood's getting there by this expansion and contraction. And so your heart itself is highly dependent on this microcirculation. And without good microcirculation, your heart will cease to function. All right. And so a huge aspect of heart health is microcirculation. So we need to know that you need arginine for that. We put that in Boomer Boost for that purpose. But you also need to know that you have to have very healthy nerves all throughout your body. Your nerves have to be firing properly because the firing of those nerves also creates a pumping action that helps the capillaries to distribute blood and oxygen to all the cells, including the nerve cells. So the nerve cell fires, it helps pump the blood which then provides the nerve cell with oxygen and nutrients. And it's this beautiful cycle. But if your circulation starts to suffer, then your nerve cells start to suffer and your circulation suffers even further. And so making sure that you've got those nerves, pumping really well, you want to know, well, what do those nerve cells need? They need the microcirculation working well. And they also depends what's in the blood, right? Things like arginine, things like vitamin B1, B3, B6, right? So it powers the mitochondria that are powering up this whole system, right? The other thing is we evolved humans on a planet that is very, very unique, right? We're we're revolving around the sun, which is blasting out lots of light in the form of photons. And we are on a fairly circular planet that has a core that's a molten core of iron. And that core is rotating, and so is the Earth. So that double rotation and the molten core is throwing off trillions upon trillions of photons in the form of this pulsed electromagnetism that's coming up from the core of the Earth, breaking through the surface, and our bodies are absorbing those pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, or PEMF. And those frequencies are stimulating our capillaries and our arterioles to expand and contract along with the nerve conductation and along with the nitric oxide. These things together are creating this beautiful dance of microcirculation. And as we age, Phoenix, our bodies become less photosensitive, meaning less able to absorb the photons in the photoreceptors and then convert them into chemical energy. And that's another major aspect of having enough energy to make your heart healthy, is our bodies are bathed in light and bathed in these PEMFs, and particularly in our eyes, the cones and rods of our eyes, we have these cells that their membrane of the cell is made up of different things, including an acid called DHA, which is in fish oil. So this is one of the reasons why we provide fish oil gel caps for our customers, is you need that DHA in your cones and rods, because when light hits your eyes, that ancient molecule DHA, which has stayed the same for a billion years and is involved in the whole world's, bioenergetic processing, right? It converts those photons of light into electricity, into electrons. And your body does that to a large degree all throughout your body, but in a highly concentrated form in your eyes. And this helps to create this electron transport chain, right, that we were talking about earlier. And we also know, Phoenix, that through technology, there's a type of a mat that you can put underneath your mattress pad. It's about 6 feet long, 3 feet across. It's hooked to a power supply. And we call it the circulation mat. And when you turn on the power supply, it mimics those pulses that are coming from the core of the Earth and helps with your microcirculation by about 30%, which is really fortuitous because as you age, that's about how much circulation that you lose. So if you want to keep your circulation strong as if you were much younger, you get one of these mats, you lie on it every day, 8 minutes, twice a day, and the effect lasts for about 14 hours. And so you can have this enhanced circulation um, all during the day and the night as well. And so those circulation mats, you can't see them for sale on our website, but you can call us, and if you want one, we can help you to get one. We can hook you up with the German company that makes these mats, and they have a California-based distribution company, and you don't need to have a doctor's order to get one.
Very cool. You know, you've talked about those mats before, and our listeners may not realize they use these in ambulances and hospitals in Europe. These are standard over there, but not here in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So another, big aspect of a healthy heart, Phoenix, is the whole issue of mindset and stress. And it's a big topic, but essentially, there's a phenomenon that's been known for a while called heart rate variability, or HRV. And what this means is how much variability is there in the beating of your heart, where, instead of your heart just beating steadily with the same amount of space in between each beat, there's something to be said for having it be more variable. And it turns out that that variability and the degree of it is actually communicating to your brain. There's a neuronal connection between your heart, which has neurons in it, just almost exactly like brain cells. You have about 40,000 of them in your upper right ventricle. And when your heart is beating, those neurites are sending a signal to your brain, and it's telling your brain whether or not everything is okay. And the issue with stress and mindset is to a great degree about that. Are you of the belief that everything is okay? Or are you like most Americans, where 95% of the time we're of the belief that things are not okay? And so this heart rate variability is informing a part of your brain called the amygdala, which does many different things, but part of it is to assess stress issues and communicate to your frontal cortex if things are okay. Because your body needs to be able to react if things aren't okay. There's a saber-toothed tiger at the door of the cave. We better go into action, right? This is your sympathetic nervous system kicking into high gear. Your frontal cortex then signals your heart muscle, which changes your heart rate variability, which signals your amygdala, which signals your frontal cortex, and a loop continues, hopefully until it's been established that things are okay. Now, there are some types of animals that are very, very good at going right back to equilibrium after there's a potential threat. So, a deer, for example, you could see a deer out in a field and something startles that deer. Maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a gunshot, and the deer will bolt really fast, like boom. And then they'll run a certain distance and they'll stop and they'll go right back to eating grass again like nothing ever happened. Human beings are not like that. Human beings tend to stay in this heightened state of alert. Like, okay, that just happened. We better stay alert permanently now in case it happens again. And so we get stuck in this perpetual notion that things are not okay. And your heart rate variability changes as a result. And then it triggers a second pathway, Phoenix, that is your pituitary and hypothalamic adrenal axis, which then is signaling your adrenal glands to produce more adrenaline and cortisol. And So we stay in this constant state of heightened alertness, sympathetic nervous system, and we have these two metabolic pathways playing with each other and creating a very detrimental physical state in a person. Too much cortisol, too much adrenaline, and we end up uh, causing problems for our heart over time because the stress of it is creating inflammation and other problems that weaken our heart. And so, what do you do about such a thing? Well, there's a couple things that you can do. There's some that are real easy. Some will take a little bit more learning. But one of them is you can learn to do the ultimate mind calming exercise. And this is an exercise that you can learn for free on our website, which is a bioenergetic exercise that signals your body mind to let go of what's going on in your head, these beliefs that things are not okay, to stop that thought process and to enter into more of a feeling kinesthetic state that's more attuned to your heart. And so your heart makes a neurotransmitter called oxytocin, which is a very soothing neurotransmitter. It's your molecule of love and compassion. And this ultimate mind calming exercise will teach you how to let go of your head and go into a state of no mind. And in no mind, you have a chance then to, with a physical action, a breath and a push on your heart, to activate an oxytocin surge into your brain. Very, very effective technique. You can learn to do it. You can use it all the time. And over time, this becomes more of a habit for you to be in a state of much more calm state. Now, also, Phoenix, this can also be used as an aside as kind of a spiritual technique where you do this exercise, which is also called head circles. So it's a special way of moving your head in a circle with your breath, and it makes your brain stop. But before you start, if you want to, you can kind of preset a question that you're going to run as a question while your brain is in this pause state. And the question that I like to ask is, who is this that's doing these head circles? And so as you go into this beautiful state of no mind and you ask that question, your brain starts to think about, what is it that's really powering me? And for some people, most people, it ends up bringing you into a state of your higher self where you can almost feel that you're sharing your point of focus and your consciousness with another layer of dimension. And you get this sense that you've become bigger, that your consciousness is now more circular all around your body, and it's going way up above your head. And so you're not just thinking in this very small brain, this 3-pound brain, but instead you're thinking and your consciousness has expanded. And you can, at that point, do another head circle and then ask the question, who is this that's asking, who is this that's doing these head circles? And at that point, you might notice that your consciousness has filled the room and is kind of thinking of bursting through the walls where your consciousness could actually be, spread out even farther into the outside of your house or your office, which is what's happening to me right now as I describe this technique. And so it's much more than just calming your mind. With the right questions and the right stacking of the same question, who is this that's asking who is this that's asking who is this that's doing these head circles. And you elevate up layers of dimensions and consciousness as you continue doing it. It creates a sense of control, a sense of being much more than your physical body, a sense of the capability to affect what's going on with your thought process and your stress level, etc., because you've recruited higher levels of your consciousness to participate in the preservation of these beautiful bacteria that they call mitochondria and all of the human cells that you also have.
Very
So
cool.
that that's one of the techniques, Phoenix. There's also other super powerful techniques you can learn for free on my website. One is called havening. And havening is an amazing technique for mitigating trauma. So almost everybody's had some trauma in their life. Being born is a traumatic experience. Okay, you go through a sudden change in pressure. You go from being almost a pure human being to coming through the birth canal and instantly being colonized by a swarm of bacteria that were in the birth canal, which gets into your mouth, your nose, and the enzymes and the bacteria that you pick up during the birth actually are helping you digest your first meal from your mother's milk. And while you're drinking your mother's milk, there's lots of bacteria in that milk. And by the time a child is just a few days old, it's completely colonized by bacteria. You want to talk about something traumatic, right? So, birth is a trauma.
Yes, it
Other
is.
things that occur are also traumatic in early life. When you become a teenager, you have sentinel events in your life, a car accident, a death in your family. Maybe you were in the military and you were in a war, right? These are things that create patterns in your amygdala that are that create these traumatic flashbacks. And in severe cases, PTSD, and in some cases, psychoses, right? And it's related to how chemicals are moving in your amygdala. The good news is we now know that those movements are brain wave dependent. So you have electromagnetic waves and pulses in your brain, and the chemistry is dependent upon a specific type of brainwave in that area in order for it to happen. And it turns out with this technique called havening, we can alter the brainwave in the amygdala from a beta wave to a delta wave. And in delta, that chemistry does not happen. So you can mitigate traumas, even severe traumas, and stress and anxiety using this technique, which you can, when you're on our website, go to the search bar on the top left. You first have to click the little icon. It's a circle with a line coming out of it, and looks like a Q. Surprise, surprise. And a bar will pop up. You can type in havening, and you'll be able to see 3 different videos about havening, and you can learn to do it for yourself without a teacher being present, other than in video format. And you can do the same thing uh, for the emotional freedom technique. You can put that into the search bar, and there's 5 different videos on this technique, which is also called tapping. And all of this will help you to reprogram your beliefs, change the brain waves, elevate your consciousness. And then lastly, in this regard, Phoenix, there's a video about a half hour long. It's called Nonviolent Communication. And a big part of stress in human lives is related to communication. How well do you communicate with your children? How well do you communicate with your spouse, your coworkers, and most importantly, your neighbors? And a lot of people have never actually been trained how to communicate other than just watching what other people do and doing the same thing. Well, it turns out that there are ways of communicating that are very different than what the standard is. And this technique called nonviolent communication is one of those ways where it teaches you to really focus on the other person's feelings and their needs, and in a way that there can be respectful requests made of each other in order to make everybody happy. And Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote this book in the 1960s, became so good at this that he was asked to be a mediator between countries that needed to form peace treaties and other types of treaties and agreements. And he would travel and go and use this technique in helping people to get to know each other better, to respect each other more, and to understand why people might be so tightly locked in on a particular position that they hold, and why it might be so emotional, and what the parties could do to help to understand each other. A very, very good technique for everybody to know. You can use it with everybody that you come into contact with, and it creates a great sense of peace, Phoenix, because your mind is no longer fighting against other people's minds, but you've just kind of shifted your intention away from uh, finishing other people's thoughts, trying to interrupt and come back with a solution before they're even finished speaking, to really understanding their feelings and their needs.
Very cool. I tell you what, Bob. Um, my feelings and our needs. I'm feeling like we're getting close to the end of the hour here, and
Yeah.
therefore, I think one of our needs is you need to give us your closing thoughts on this and word of wisdom, and also all of your contact information. So, please, sir, at your convenience, final thoughts.
Thank you, Phoenix. Yeah. So, yeah, if people want to get in touch with us, you can give us a call at 800-861-4609. We're on Central Avenue in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you ever want to come visit, you can do that too. It's 5401. And give a call ahead of time. I'm not always here in the building. Um, and but I would like to, be able to meet with you if you're going to be around, if you're coming on vacation, you live nearby. We've had lots of people that are listeners to your show, Phoenix, that have come to see us and become friends of ours. It's awesome. And sometimes we discover that there are people listening to your program that live right in our neighborhood and they don't know about us. They find out about us through listening to this.
Oh, that's funny.
It's just, it's just great. And you can also go to patriotintelreport.com, and you'll see a banner on the left-hand side on the homepage that looks like a lady in a blue lightning storm. And if you click on the lady in the blue lightning, it'll bring you right to my site where you can see about our new epigenetic reprogrammer, Myotrol. You can see about our barley and boomer boosts that are for the health of your heart and many other things. And you can also watch those videos for free. And there's a lot more to it than that. There's about 100 different videos on health and wellness that you can watch once you make your way there. Phoenix, just finally, because heart health is a big topic, you know, having in order to be able to sleep well and have a healthy sleep schedule is also real important. And you can find on our website a whole video about sleep, and that you can watch. And the other, of course, is physical activity. And again, it's a big topic. But if you're interested, there's a whole section our uh, under our podcasts and blogs section about physical activity that has charts of exercises you can follow along with, and there's also videos that go into it. And we've interviewed some really great exercise physiologists that actually came to our building on Central Avenue to record with us, and you can watch those videos as well. And so I would just say here we are in a time, where it's about as stressful as I can remember of any time since I've been alive for almost 70 years now. Um, and I think that a lot of people are having difficulties with their heart. A lot of young people are dying very young from issues with their heart. And this information, if you're listening, I want to pass it on to your friends. That would be a really great thing. You never know who you might help that would take action from this information, and and it could benefit them and their longevity and their health span in a really profound way. There's even and no one is too old. Our oldest customer came to us when he was 101 years old. He was a general in the Second World War, and we helped him to restore his life as well. And many other people in their 80s and 90s that were kind of crumbly and on their way out are no longer on their way out. They are reversing their physical age, and they're going back to doing things that they did when they were much younger. And we're living in a scientific age right now where there's way more that we can do for our bodies and our mind and our spirit uh, than we've ever been able to in the past. And so you want to be able to find what you believe to be true, uh, number one. And you also have to really want to improve and improve your health span. And then you have to find somebody that you can trust. And so if you go through our website and you call and you want to talk to us and try out some of our stuff, we'll be more than happy to show you, as we have for about 20,000 other people, that regardless of how long you're with us, you'll always find when you look back that you were able to trust us to help you to the best of our ability.
Very cool. And that is so true. You have great customer service, great products. I know this. Everyone, I hope that this has been a blessing to you and you learned a lot. If so, like this and share it. And like I said, share it with others who may need that information. Bob, thank you so much again. You contribute so much and give so much to us as a community with the knowledge on health and the different things you offer. And just all your services you have. I really appreciate it, and I know our listeners do too, Bob. I really want to thank you.
Well, thank you, Phoenix. The pleasure was mine. Hope you have a wonderful week coming up, and I'll look forward to our next talk.
Yes, as well I. That's it, everyone. Couple more weeks, we'll be back with Bob. But for right now, that is it, everyone. Remember, if you do not have your health, you have nothing. So it's so very important. Be sure and check those phone numbers out. Give Bob a call. Click on that link to check his products. Until the next Patriot Health Report, everyone. God bless. And Phoenix and Bob out.